and principalities.
There's so much fire inside me.
Tragedy struck when part of the largest hillside at the kosher rubbish dump collapsed.
It's going to be fun to see how he goes about approaching this game.
We table issues relating to the arts and entertainment for a riveting discussion, of course, without fear nor favor.
The question the presenter asked them was a dumb question. You need to speak the fact and move.
Varied views. We agree to disagree.
So I would disagree with everything you said. I think that he's a smart guy. I think what he did.
No, but I also said he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
I guess that I'm waiting for the what next.
Yeah, I don't think that we have to wait for what next.
It sometimes gets confrontational, but that's the beauty of the game.
Today you deny funny face. It's not my brother. I don't know him. You don't know funny face. It's not my brother. You don't know funny face.
It's a package. We meet, we sit, we dialogue, we learn, we progress. My name is Benefo Huabin Abrantepa, a proud blogger, and this is my forum.
one. We use for servicing at the same time. This indicator machine is used for alignment. So whatever you do here, it's being indicated on the screen. Verify. We use to show the student the end product of what they are going to learn. So this is very accompanying. This is a Toyota car. Yeah, Toyota Corolla. These are rear engine. We have the gasoline type and then the diesel type. They are all electronic ones, modern electronic engines. Handbrake trainer. The student will know how the handbrake is being fixed and then its operation. We have manual engines. Also, you will have hands training on them. Your Excellency, we have types of gearbox over here. The manual type and then the automatic one. And then we have it being coupled with trailers. That is over here. The gearbox is being coupled with motors and then drive shafts. So when it's being powered, we'll be able to operate it and show to the students how the automatic system works.
Big passion about Ghana, have a big passion about the future of our country. What are we talking about? We're talking about the country, the first in Africa, Black Africa to be free, the most enduring democracy on the continent today after decades of turmoil. There's so many things about the Ghanaian people and their development, which for me are sources of pride and provide the inspiration for trying to help and to move the people of this country forward. And there's very praiseworthy people, and serving them is an honor as far as I'm concerned, and a privilege. And in some ways, I saw meaning all the difficulties, negativities, do attempts all day, all night. I was also because we say, hey, I don't I mean, all of these things, but they don't disturb me, and they don't derail me. They don't divert me from the project ahead of me.
What about 7th January 2025? Inti ma menfa no ntwema san ya ba wa proboni bi. So 7th January 2025 upe so petetem cry en fama wa waji atum se ECOWAS ne ekoso no enye papa third termism. Omo mpese umdi wa de wo party mu wa be de chire Dr. Baumia yatini din ora lanche mantin on your no start to pray nyenne yati ora boache jakudin yati oro usu free akoto a great minister panyin for baby yati ti omudin says ansem tete a it is saying how do you take it? Are they focused on the work you've given them, or are they busily trying to succeed?
At the moment, I have no evidence that for ambition are interfering with the work that they're doing. I have no evidence. On the contrary, I continue to see in the cabinet, in the government, people who are working strongly for their, I mean, Usofia Kutu with the agricultural projects now. Ugusudindende, Chamating and the industrial agenda, something that is being worked on very, very hard. Every day, wherever I go, see your friends saying 1D, 1F projects coming into being. 1D, 1F policy and as usual. King Promise.
Utinina.
Every day the country is seeing that yes, these commitments to build the factories in the various areas of Ghana, they're commitments that are bearing fruit. Baumia is the chairman of the economic management team, which is the position of the vice president. We see the big efforts that the economy is making against very difficult circumstances to move. So all of them, and as I say, I have not seen, because if that was to happen, I would have to act, assuming say be ambition in tea. No night to say we do portfolio at Tunche. But the obviously the president cannot be unconcerned. I mean, like I said, I've been in this position before.
Yeah.
Yes, I was a minister in President Kufuor's government, foreign minister at the time when the bell sounded for the race for his successor. I had to comport myself accordingly. As far as I'm concerned, those who are there in that situation today are also. There's two issues for me that matter. One, that we should have a transparent, credible, acceptable process for choosing our next flag bearer. The same as I came out of such a process. It should be my responsibility to make sure that the process for choosing the next leader of the NPP is equally free of doubt or machination or manipulation. That's for me absolutely key. And I'm hoping that a level playing field that allows us to elect our next presidential candidate will also bring us a candidate who can unite our party. Because competition there could be also oh yes, and it's inevitable. It will bring some divisions in the party. But we are the ruling party. So there's a responsibility on us to conduct ourselves in such a way that, because cracks in the NPP, they're serious, can have a reflection on the state.
Yeah.
We are the ruling party. And if our base, which is our party, is fractured, that fracture can be translated into a fracture in the state. Nobody wants that. And we in the NPP should be the last to accept such a reality in the country.
What would you do to influence the process?
Making sure that the process is fair. Making sure with the party leadership that a fair, transparent, credible process is put in place that will enable, because at the end of the day, it is the party that makes the choice. I was the choice of the party. I wasn't the choice of any cabal or group of people. Yes, there were people who supported me right from the beginning. But at the end of the day, it is the ordinary party people in the polling stations, in the constituencies, in the regions, who actually cast a vote. A vote free of any sort of irregularity to elect me. I want the same thing for my predecessor, that he should also, he or she, people will accuse me of will also be. But as I say, that is important. And secondly, that we get a personality who's capable of unifying the various groupings in the party and being able to present a formidable front for the 2024 election.
You've worked with all of them. Deep down, I'm sure you have your favorite.
I have a vote. So it's like in the national election, I have a vote. So in the your friend is primaries of the MPP, by our constitution, I have a vote.
Into a tuam will be paid.
Na
akani pakrono.
The secrecy of the ballot. Votes.
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Mampanyi, Republic of Ghana.
Peace FM.
And I want to say, you know, etwetwe nkomo anape efa ni nyuma a wodi na pro bonho ne nia ekeka ka ho nyina na yanko bisa no say na pro bono. So far 15 regions have been covered. 16th region Greater Accra and Ufiasie Henry Quarter Greater Accra Regional Minister meaning say odimu akotene papa. Mampanyi yempie baby
Henry Quarter has one but since me bomb when I can phone wabomode.
Henry Quarter.
I think so Bia who said Adwin Papa na me didn't buy. Also doing a good job in the country.
Also now ona man yes I no unsuro hwe no na aya so mu ade kra
no ninja no person ya adwuma fofo
o say no mpe
at the beginning
and then
Where now, so adjust your mind to it and get on with it. But he's proved to be an extremely strong choice and preference in Ejuma Oye no so says Obi who say Baso Babe Ejuma Base or Babi Diagro now Babe Petinia man the more ya Bubusi again the relocation of the people, the let's make a crowd work, the agenda, making meaningful of our commitment to a clean Accra city and then the city whose public services are in order. So they are the work of a very committed regional minister. The past who said, Ghana follow do do then they can see. Say, one day, my papa, because I can see a bone to penny gram say, you must say, I saw sound mean to me. I can't get it, I can show you.
Henry, no, my call Bunny. It's not just when you a Juma while you're home.
He's doing well.
Great.
He's doing a good job.
Great. Let's move on, Mr. President. One of the accusations about where Juma Hone say more abandoned projects, okay, social infrastructure. Senya moye say Juma, but otia yes, we abandoned project, we abandoned way, we predecessor Nyuma wabeye ebi wo ho a oba wejemu. Yenim say minority caucus ewo mrachebedwem akọ aprobo omakopie voter region aflawo ohene kra ka say school e-blocks omusi wo ho mwejemu na enyehwe ene ye one accusation abandoning project omapanyi mahama kwa pache say Commander Sugar Factory ade a wo sheda pa say $24 million bia Indian government say mama meje wan kwa nkwaje ka ho na Commander adwuma no atwe asan Ebiswaka say road networks, Upper West region. Into accusations in the Ewoho. Openi, Uso Musain, say a Juma Yedi Ghana Sika Air and also when ye.
Just Mikael. You want to be out here. Let me say because the reality, the facts on the ground tell you a completely different story. Infa Commander, just to begin with. And say Mukoka says you can't build a house by starting at the roof without building a foundation because the house will collapse. That is exactly what has happened as far as Commander is concerned. But let me just say some simple facts about Commander. When the factory was built, immediately after the factory was built, it shut down. This was in the NDC time.
May 2016.
May 2016. Immediately after its commissioning, on the 30th of May 2016, the factory was shut down because of lack of access to raw materials. And soon after, a transaction advisor who was appointed by the then NDC government, I think it was Pricewaterhouse. Was it Pricewaterhouse? Came to try and assist the government to sell 70% of the shares in the factory.
70%?
70% of the shares in the factory. And all this is happening in the Mahama era. It's not my time. Up and down, no progress. Why? Because the fundamental issue which has dogged the Commander Sugar Factory, the absence of plan for supply of raw material, makes it a very, very difficult project.
$24 million, he says, was there for you to pick from the Indian government. You didn't.
But why? I didn't know no one for says the money was there before he left office. Why didn't he access it? The money was there before he left office. But in fact, it was going to be difficult to access the money because the factory itself that he had built had collapsed. Are you going to go and tell people you want some more money when the thing that you built is in itself on the back foot?
But you can say it had collapsed. I mean,
Shutdown of a factory. How do you understand it?
Tell them some maintenance.
Immediately after you build the factory.
Well,
you bring it down it was shut down for lack of raw materials to feed the factory. And this is the point that I've been making, that the whole planning of the Komenda Sugar Factory was wrong from the get-go. What we have been trying to do, what Alan Chamating has been trying to do, and it's a very valiant effort that he has made, is to try now to reconfigure the investment in such a way that he has now access also to raw material supplies for the factory. I think the work that has been done between him, the transaction advice, and the board of the company is now in a situation whereby, God willing, by February next year, we will have got the Komenda Sugar Factory working.
By February next year?
This is the target that we have.
Do we have raw material?
They've made arrangements now to supply the factory with the raw material.
How sustainable is that, Mr. President?
It's going to be sustainable. If the factory is going to start working, it has to be sustainable. Because when you come back to it and you understand how it is that the poor planning continues to be an albatross around our neck, the question you're asking.
Your roof and your foundation. Yes, how sustainable?
How sustainable is it? Because the initial planning never properly incorporated raw material supplies into the project. Because if that had been so, we would not be in this discussion today. But the arrangements have been. We're talking about roads.
Yeah.
There's so many examples. When you talk about ongoing projects, many of the roads that allegedly we have stalled had no development at all before I came into office.
Really?
I can give you several. The flyover over the motorway from Flower Pot. Physical progress at the time I came to office was 0%. Today it's about 25% movement. There was no development whatsoever. The name, a concept in the air. You're looking at the Bogatanga Boko Polimakum Road. Physical progress as of December 2016, 0%. Today it's nearly 40%, the development of it. There are several other examples. The Ketakrachi Mandai Nyampali Road, 9% development at the time when I came into office, is now 98% complete. You're talking about the Kansa Wurudu bypass,
yes,
phase 3. Physical progress as of December 2016, 10%. Today is 97% virtually complete. You talk about the whole main road in the center, the dualization process of the whole. I came to meet physical progress at 8%. Today, we're talking 50%, the development. The Eastern Corridor Road, lots 5 and 6, which have been the subject of a lot of discussion. When we came in, the physical progress there was 55%. Today, it is 78%. In Kwanta, Dambai Road, the reconstruction.
Okay, Eastern Corridor Road, no?
No.
Okay, in Kwanta,
no, separate. 6.85% was the rate of physical progress at the time when we came in. Today, it's 61%. I mean, there's several such examples, which shows you that the allegation that we have abandoned the road projects that we came to have is difficult.
How about the E-blocks?
many of them. I think I'll find an opportunity to send you that many of them are being worked on across the country.
Let me just take one, Mr. President. The one in Aflao where the chief himself has complained. Aflao Pacha say e-block no oba yenya hwehwe. Inti my education minister up to February say ombe yen hu bibi. It's an say
minister ultimatum.
So abre.
And onko ye.
Inti obisa no then abeka che ebi out of frustration ebi okasa.
When bia so no ye boabo ye hu ni aye. As much as possible. I've given you these examples to let you see that, on the contrary, despite the propaganda, because one of the things that I suspect there's a deficit on our part is our ability to counter the propaganda. The propaganda takes over the reality of so many aspects of our national life. It's a pity, but we'll continue.
Is it not because you have a weak communications team?
I don't want to think of it. I think
you've been accused of that. Say MPP more communication, you're poor, you're weak. You're doing good, but nobody's hearing about it.
But people are feeling it. The people in the various areas of life are feeling it, are responding to it.
Would you improve on your communications team?
What aspect of national life can you not improve? What aspect of political engagement can you not improve? You can improve it. But at the same time, too, virulent propaganda has its own power. And that is the phenomenon that my government has been facing. So we're talking about the hospitals.
Yes.
It's another area where I'm alleged to have abandoned the hospitals. The Eurojet project is presented as if it was a project initiated by the Mahama government. It is not true. The Eurojet project was initiated by the Kufuor administration. Before President Kufuor left office, that whole project had began. The question we have to ask ourselves, the 8 years of NDC rule saw no progress whatsoever on these hospitals. Whether you're talking about WA, the East Municipal Hospital, Trifupra, all these ones in Soko, all the developments that have taken place in these hospitals took place in my time. They say so. The contractors say so. When these hospitals, the ones that have been commissioned, like the Upper West Regional Hospital, the East Municipal Hospital, the Trifupra, the Tepa, and Soko, all these hospitals, when they're completed, listen to the contractors, they'll tell you that for several years they were unable to do any work.
Even though it began under President Kufuor?
Even though it began under Kufuor. And it is in my time that the funds and the commitment have been put together to allow these projects to be completed. There's several of them. And as we're speaking now, the 250-bed regional hospital in Kumasi in Syria, I was there. That's what something 95% complete. And the commitment that has been made is that by December, early January, the hospital is going to be... we now have a problem of the supply of the utilities to the hospital, water, the road access, electricity. But the hospital substantially, the civil works for the building of the hospital have now been complete. We have the same phenomenon in Konowo. It's a 60-bed hospital. It's virtually 95% complete as we speak. And we're looking also for that to be also completed at the end of the month. So when you're looking at all these examples, you wonder how come people have the courage to come forward to deny the reality. But then I've noticed that is the stock in trade of my opposition, dealing in facts that are not there, but screaming it so loud that the person who doesn't take care will begin to think that, yes, these must be facts, otherwise why are they being said? But it is also part of negative propaganda. You repeat an untruth several times, ultimately, hopefully,
They will sink.
It will sink.
Well, maybe because also you're not telling your story. Your communications team is not telling your story enough. Maybe they should up their game, and probably it will sink the propaganda. But Mr. President,
the propaganda was not able to sink my electoral chances.
I'm not Chimayo do.
Oh yes,
I'm not Chimayo.
Yeah, the Ghana force them na make. Ghana force them na make. You na koto mao. What are the koto? Which shows you that the propaganda in itself it cannot obliterate the reality and the facts. And at the end of the day, maybe say a master communicator to someone.
Mr. President, but about hospitals, as I mean, Agenda 111, how realistic and feasible is it? It is. Ebiaka say, you prepare your hododo. Agenda 111, idea near good. Enka gradualist approach, you better. Ebia, you be 20. Na ye disikani na kwa shawa ye niya nikakaka, but ye ni na no. Ebia ni niska. We are spreading ourselves too thin.
The capacity within the public sector, joined up with the private sector, is there to carry out the project. I don't have any doubt about it. And the people who have been mobilized here, very much on point. Across the country, the processes for the development of these hospitals are ongoing. We made a commitment that by the end of next year, these hospitals will be in place, and I'm confident from what I've seen of the preparation.
We're not biting more than we can chew?
I don't believe so. I think that it will be a big achievement, and I think it will also be an achievement which will give confidence to our people that we're capable of large-scale infrastructural projects, we, Ghanaians, all the people involved. Some of the contractors will have a foreign content, but the professionals who are manning this, architects, surveyors,
Mr. President, don't you think that your enthusiasm, energy, and drive when it comes to Agenda 111 is probably bigger than the reality on the ground?
I don't believe so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. There are one or two places where we're having problems predictably, and it's part of the issues that we factored in about land acquisition and land rights. Those are inevitable aspects in our country with the land tenure system that it has. But overall, and I believe that of the 111, something like 88 or 89 are going. There are a handful. The actual clearing of sites and putting in the basic foundations are already started. The whole thing has been divided into groups. Different groups are responsible, both as architects, as consultants, and contractors, for particular group lots of the hospitals. So it isn't as if it is one particular contractor or one group of architects who are doing in the mall. On the contrary, we're mobilizing across a broad front and bringing together a lot of skills and expertise together to do the project. And I think that this is the kind of project that should be done in this way. Yeah, because it's always difficult. Why does somebody have and somebody doesn't? This thing, what happened was when the COVID, at the very beginning, when we didn't know exactly the trajectory of the hospital, of the COVID, was when I asked for an audit to be conducted as to where the health sites and in the country were. That's when came this information, the initial information that there were 88 districts in Ghana that they didn't have any district hospitals. I am Shishepa. I've got frightened. Said that if this disease is the national, the global, and national perspective that there are to it, and that there are nearly 90 districts out of the 200 odd 60 districts that don't have access to a district hospital. It means that the people in those areas, if this disease expressed to them are truly threatened. And when the result of the order was brought to me, to be honest, my heart was really, really thumping away. I got scared. I said, hey, it's a BBC this disease is this pervasive pandemic, which we are told it is. That kind of food people who bet you. Fortunately, first of all, it didn't turn out to be the case. The pandemic continued to be focused on our two major urban concentrations.
In Kumasi.
In Kumasi, even though there are other parts which also caught it. But nevertheless, what it did to me was to say that whatever be the case, we have to rectify this situation and then strengthen our healthcare system across the nation. We can't have, it's like the schooling. We can't have a situation whereby some places have and other places don't have. It's not good for the morale of our country.
But if you can't afford it, so we can't swap. Well,
we have to be creative. This is what we've been doing. We're trying to, we're finding ways and means to do it. We have to do it. Some of these things have to be done. And as far as the Agenda 111 is concerned, very, 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 very thorough investigations have been undertaken by the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Health, the government system in general, to find the way to do it. The monies for the mobilization are already in place so that the beginning can be financed, and arrangements have been made to make sure that the contractors get paid as they do their work. It can be done. Mr. President, simplify a lot of things. We have got uniform designs. We've also agreed on the bill of quantities, uniform across the country, so that we can also have uniform prices and transaction values. All those things have been centralized and clarified. So the possibility of being able then to do the work is very strong. We will do it.
I think about.
I'll be back here next year.
I think Cheba, we are sure say I feel I'll be back next year. I was at hospital.
I'll be back next year. I'll be back next year. Now I don't know a bit more who said they maybe I can Papa so hard Papa so.
And yeah, I do guy I do show boy in Yaman Ababe.
I don't know, say I do guy I do show boy in Chelsea meeting.
Opening a banner saying that Cape Coast. I
made a mistake. Let me just confess it. I made a mistake.
You did?
Yeah, I made a mistake. In looking at the manifesto, and I tried to do that before I go. I saw one page which talked about a landing site. I didn't go further to see. But in any event, even with the mistake, I think still we have to rethink a lot of things. We can't have a harbour in Elmina. We have a harbour in Elmina, which is being developed right now. Obviously, Takrady, Elmina. Then we have another one projected for Cape Coast before we go further down the road. I think some rethinking has to go on for us to be able to find what is the value for money arrangements that work. But it was a mistake, and I have to apologize to the people of Cape Coast and the Central Region for that mistake. But presidents are human.
After all.
They're not Superman. They make mistakes.
Well, so that settles it for now. I'm sure that we'll move on. Let's look at corruption quickly, and then you can go on your tour. Because make sure Accra was when you have the regional minister, Wabona Basui, Nitima and the or Hesse, Okanuma Banyan, Fiuni, Anake, Okaleba. Mr. President, corruption, Africa, Ghana, in Simbia Ba, Efa, Wabai Boss contaminated fuel, missing excavators, contracts for sale with PPA, NYA, Sputnik vaccines, especially with COVID. Ibiaka said COVID, in Kwafo Abem with the eye chop. What did you papa but you can't on your hearing? Me sure say Waka say yes, this is why I'm clearing agent. Respectfully, may can lightly say why I'm clearing agent. Obi asemoba na ebidru ha na wa clear no.
Opinion me clear. I think that is the first thing. There's not one single incident. Right from the very beginning, Parliament talked about
cash for seats.
Cash for seats. Bochejako tried to influence his outcome. Right through accusations that were leveled all the way through up till now. Each one of the allegations that are made are investigated by the state institutions. There's not one. I cannot conduct the investigation. You cannot conduct the investigations from Jubilee House. The ones who can conduct the investigations are the institutions on the ground, whether it is the police, the CID, in some cases the Parliament has those investigative powers, a YOKO. These are the institutions that carry out these investigations and then produce a report. And it is on the basis of their reports that I act. So if they go, because it's very easy. I mean, one of the things is people in public office. It is extremely easy to level the accusation of corruption. For instance, a lot of business people are very quick to do it. 2 or 3 companies are vying for a contract. They go through a tender process, and your company gets it, and Eugene Ahin's company doesn't get it. You hear Eugene Ahin say, it's corruption. Yeah. You hear a lot of that in our system. I'm not saying that is the only source, but something like that, you investigate it. And you see whether the proper procedures were applied, and if so, the decision-making in the selection was correct, and you operate on that. I am not the clearing agent. There's not one single one of these allegations that were made where I did the clearing. I announced the results. Yes, I announced the result, and that is my responsibility, because in many cases, the investigations were initiated by me. If my attitude was to condone and push it under the table, hide it under the carpet, why would I even begin the investigative process? The reference of my deputy chief of staff to CID was made by me. I don't remember the last time a president in this country did that. I made the reference that the conduct that was being stigmatized should be investigated by the state agencies. Unfortunately, the confidence that we should have in our own state agencies sometimes is not there. And that is a whole matter that we can go into, but I don't think we have the time to do that. So when they work, people assume that somehow or other they have been influenced. It isn't the case. But when the evidence is there, we have to act on it.
How about PPA, BOST, other places too? You say, you say, on your National Youth Authority incidents, you see.
But then he was investigated.
But
yeah, but I don't know the result. The result was that.
Say Sikebi could do an account to me any baby free in it drew us and call baby abium.
The matter was referred. I believe it was referred to the special prosecutor. I believe so. Yeah, but when you make these references, the matter comes out of my hands. How reference, how it is dealt with after that is not a matter for me. But the investigation, the investigative exercise has to go on. And that is what I have insisted on. And if the results come that there is, in fact, no substance to the allegations, and it's my duty, just as it's important to hold people to high standards in public conduct, it's also equally important that allegations which are without substance should not be used to stigmatize public officials. If there is substance in it, fair enough. If there isn't, it shouldn't be allowed to go forward. And to that extent, in many of these cases where the allegations are proved to be valueless, that I've announced that they are valueless, then I'm being accused of being a clearing agent. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm being fair.
One of your biggest legacies office of the special prosecutor, yeka corruption na no abamitrim. Nyodi kan be no yetete no honsem bebre no de call foforo aba wahye yebo say the new special prosecutor Kisia Jaben wo gidie say obetimi apagya sa office na konanim. Previous one can say akandie sikasem ni ade no one papa. O new special prosecutor, are you resourcing him enough? Idea
reviving a controversy with the old special prosecutor. But I think there's enough evidence to show that he was adequately resourced. Yeah, and there's really, as I say, don't want to go into that matter again. He was adequately resourced. Okay. And as far as this one is concerned also, I'm satisfied that the process of giving him the wherewithal to be able to do his work is very, very, very much on, and that he will do. These things, like all of us, when you are appointed to public office, to some extent it's a leap in the dark.
Yeah.
It is, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So we will see with the new special prosecutor to what extent we can count on him to live up to the responsibilities of his mandate. And I'm confident. I think that the Attorney General made a good reference to me. I acted on that reference. Unfortunately, when he went to Parliament, the public scrutiny that accompanies parliamentary approval processes, I think indicated to the country the quality and the nature of the person who had been appointed to this. Let us then rest our case for the time being and see from his deeds, not from his words, whether he's up to the responsibility.
One of the reasons why I'm asking this is he sat here, graciously gave me an interview, and wakekanya mo peso ye ne forensic lab, cyber lab, you know, sanya many 19 me bisa say dia obenya ho aka dia adwuma.
Every effort is being made. Every effort is being made to make sure that that in reality he's capable of doing the work.
Wrapping up, Mr. President, 3 years from now, 4 years from now,
somebody who came to work very hard for the people of Ghana, somebody in whose period the system of governance that we are committed to, democratic governance, was strengthened, deepened. Somebody who made a significant impact on the development, especially of our national economy, and that you can compare the data at the beginning of my mandate and at the end of my mandate to see that there has been a significant improvement, enhancement in the living standards of our people, and the quality of life to which they expected, and who generally came to make a serious contribution to Ghana's development. That is how I would like to be remembered. Apart from Ado Showboy,
Ado Prima, Ado Gaga.
That is how I would like to be remembered.
One thing you'd also be remembered for, Mr. President, is your contribution to the law in this country. Bano Emreni Munsemwa Debia Mafobodin Edekaho. Omo Mwesian Lobeka say okesi sawaye nipa bebe di suadene. Obani Ghana School of Law unkomoyi 499 of them. I must say, I say,
there's serious discussion going on in the
yes, who could be so there were UPSC say expansion project to be. Unfortunately, Yasuma reporters alcohol. Okate so nibi opani obianko ye ho hwibio.
Oh, seriously.
Yeah, obianko ye ho hwibio. Inti yese so da okate UPSC obi anim say wona obeye inti yebeye no. They've done nothing. And ama sa problem, but 499 of them, Mr. President, they want to be like you, like others.
I myself, I think that the idea of more and more lawyers in the system is good for the health of the nation. We have want a country that is governed by the rule of law.
Yeah.
It means we need to have lawyers in virtually all aspects of our national life, guiding the development of the country so that the rule of law really makes sense. There are, as always in these matters, many complex issues that have to be determined, and the conversation is ongoing. And I'm hoping that soon rather than later, a solution is going to be found.
Everybody seems to think that you should be able to give the solution, primarily because of the fact that you are a lawyer, one of Ghana's most celebrated lawyers. Now you're president, and wow profession, and as Asimikum, and year on year.
I think it's a reasonable expectation. I'll not run away from it. I think it's a reasonable expectation to see that this is a good moment for these matters to be resolved. And all I can say is that, God willing, by the time I come back here the next year, substantial progress will have been made in trying to deal with this.
So what happens to 499 right now?
Well, for the time being, there's no space in the law school for them. This is the problem. So there are others. There are several others before them who unfortunately fell into the same pit. It may be that this group have been decided to be more vocal than their predecessors.
Mr. President, you're being very honest, which isn't what we hear from the Ghana School of Law people. What can say, Mrs. here? There's no space. Inti adenti no mo jini pano bro so sawi. Yeah, but
the point is that, what is it? How are you going to have a pre-selection as to who's entitled to take the exam? You can't do that. You could only operate on some sort of situation whereby the first X or something from the numbers. I mean, are the ones who are admitted. It's difficult. What the lawyers and the law profession can appreciate is the popularity of the profession.
Yes,
and that is healthy for the growth of the law-based state, that people are interested in becoming lawyers. And now, where the matter has evolved, there's a need for us to find a solution to the numbers who are applying and their capacity to go to law school. And beyond these matters, there are examples elsewhere which we need to take into account. Our situation, we began with certain institutional arrangements and we copied largely from the British, because it is after all their system of law that substantially we have adopted and incorporated into our Ghanaian legal system. But there are other examples of how the training of lawyers should take place, and I think that it's now being looked at in great detail, and hopefully a solution is going to be found. It's unfortunate. I cannot pretend that this is a happy coincidence for me at all. On the contrary, I'm very disturbed by it, and I'm hoping that soon the cooperation of the various stakeholders, the General Legal Counsel, the Chief Justice himself, Attorney General, myself, we will find a solution to this situation.
President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And Mr. President, as I mentioned earlier, I'd appreciate it if the UPSA sword you cut, you let somebody look at it. I would appreciate that very much. President Ekwa Probo Ewan Crying Ha Agbogloshi Ajen Kotoku Adenta Katamansu areas. Na your reporter Nana in Tree will be on the trail into your news bulletins near the Nana.
She does a very good job, by the way.
Well, we gave you a good girl.
Yeah, she does a very good. She's been going around with me for about 4 or 5 years now.
More than that, before 2016.
Even in opposition, she was following us, and she's very dogged, very serious. A boy modern.
No, overmodding. Mr. President, baby, okay, what are you telling them? What are you looking for? What are you looking out for? Probably in crime for. Then I'll.
The same thing as I've done everywhere else. First of all, to see the various projects, road infrastructure, schools, hospitals, how far, what are their problems, and the response of people to them, which then helps shape the conversation of the government and its policy direction. I also go to thank them for their vote. 2020 was not what we had hoped for. We lost several seats here, I think 7 altogether, and did not win the majority here. But nevertheless, we had a substantial vote here. So it's important that I also thank them for the expression of confidence in us. Even people who lost the election are going around thanking people. How much more me? So these are the approaches that I have to my talk.
I see.
I think that I'll take it that is a statement made in jest.
Oh, Papa V. Ohale statement.
It's a pity. It's a pity.
Finally, QI plus. Any thoughts on it?
It's in the Parliament. It's in the Parliament. It's a private member's bill. We've been fighting for for a long time, the opportunity for private members also to sponsor bills in Parliament. I believe this is the first opening that is. The Parliament is looking at it, and let's see how the process develops.
Do you feel pressured with the discussions going around?
No, I can't feel pressured. We're talking about public opinion. We're talking about legitimate processes that are being used. What I would hope for is that the debate itself would be civil, and that we would recognize the need for us to be tolerant and of each other, even when there are opposing views. I was, for instance, impressed by the intervention of some very renowned and well-positioned people within the civil society sectors of our country coming forward to express their views on the matter. I think that it will be a credit to Ghanaian democracy if this matter is handled in the correct manner. Well, now I believe a reference will be made by the bill to the Constitutional and Legal Committee, appropriately. That's the committee that looks at the issue of rights and constitutionality of legislation in our Parliament. They will work. I hear that over 130 memoranda have been submitted to them. I'm anticipating that they will all be looked at closely before they can come to some consensus. The chairman of the committee has spoken about what are his preoccupations, which I think are very legitimate, to be satisfied about the constitutionality and the legality of what is being proposed. All these are part of the mix, and I'm hoping that the process will be conducted in an acceptable manner, and at the end of the day, we will know what our legislature will have to the position that it will take on the issue.
Interesting thoughts, Mr. President. Thank you very much for your time, and you promised, so see you in a year, God willing. Peace 104.3, it's 11 in the morning.
We shall be all right. Don't you cry, don't you cry.
powers and principalities.
There's so much fire inside me.
Tragedy struck when part of the largest hillside at the kosher rubbish dump collapsed.
It's going to be fun to see how he goes about approaching this game.
one. We use for servicing at the same time. This indicator machine is used for alignment. So whatever you do here, it's being indicated on the screen. Verify. We use to show the student the end product of what they are going to learn. So this is a very accompanying group. This is a Toyota car. Yeah, Toyota Corolla. These are rear engine. We have the gasoline type and then the diesel type. They are all electronic ones, modern electronic engines. Handbrake trainer. The student will know how the handbrake is being fixed and then its operation. We have manual engines. Also, you will have hand training on them. Your Excellency, we have types of gearbox over here. The manual type and then the automatic one. And then we have it being coupled with trailers. That is over here. The gearbox is being coupled with motor and then drive shafts. So when it's being powered, we'll be able to operate it and show to the students how the automatic system works. Today, Erbo Apro Ghana. Na Obiara Nanyoso Ada Obiaya Manana. Moya so dying the ordinance. Magana Heduna Ada Sida Nezerbo Ama Biara
Ocean Aza Yayamo. Ebetrabi, I am Zamepi. On working free SHS. I'm at this time around and my family in Nara at least. Wurumu, who they are, Otumuko school, Otumu one left from the right. Not Emma will feel proud. They're also where Ghanaians. Yamin show. Otie bien, Yarbe obey. Ma our day ye biara, I am him. Where were he and Durba? I may at a pole. I may to me a blow. Magana, Wakodo. Sabema and Nasia. Sir, the small Nasia Mebo, my niece and Meba, and my probably do Central Region. 15 months of my name. The Meba Fia, about the Chow, about the Sequoia, not yet. Way in the Central Region. We did just say Fefe about this year, with that say. Bassam Baby ready a cosso. A buying Shisha, why in Fibia, my address, and near me, the many the boss. I read, maybe I never did. Now, office, Otrano, Oma, a hoyo there, too much. And never before I say, to me, I'm the many. Na mami kwanso eti amanfo so nsema eda wo kuma so aye ti say niema ni bia wo so so odi atudwa awie na wie so a na kwanso aba beda amanfo ase eti tu ya mai fifi mountain na sa bato ya to na na se MPP yenya wo mu no se me ba to man and the das. In I choose so. Yankasa Mede Mujamachi Central Region, Fifi Mountain, 19 out of the 23 seats a while. A Tomame, and my minia so. And you couldn't be. Nabasa Baba don't mind in us. It's a power in Jamachi. And I'll be so. Said you're there in so. Your man says I have for you buy a massive program.
Nana mefa kwanya eso adawasi bibre na mabo abaso enam covid in semsema esi. In fact me ameno kase nana me anso meti amanone ho na me so medi me lebra nkakra na wo hwe oman bi tisi America yare yi bai ye ho kire yen enipa la efrim na natumi abone ho moden sika wasɛ no emo a wode aboa na yare sɛne eye hu ɛwa amanone a wo mokra wo mode wo ho wo mo bibi papa kra no sabi wo mo kire wo pa na so na nada roma yare eye hu wa hakra na ye hu ni sa enti we de mefa kwanya so madda na nase na ma mo na hu sɛ sɛne be ma be ya no aye no wa bɔ ne ho moden papa wa ya de pa Ghana mada na nasi bebre
edika na na breku me do ase edwabo ya woda no a aboabo na na no nyina de aba be hia me fefe se onyame enhyira o me da ase papa na eno achi nso no nse fefe a waka family ne adwuma ye no so me do ase papa me ba se me ba be hwe aban adwuma ekoso be bia edu na fem so metie sema da koma so na amadwuma aban eye na se tretre amamu no a enya kwan etumi aye babiom se me ba be dam ase abaye to here December 3 constituencies a war I said central and south there and that's a way afa and abreku north nkwana akwakọ yira kakra na we said the fufuro e be there e be ko baby esese ko
groundbreaking in 2020. Contract is 31 US from Asifus on Asifus acceleration. In fact, we want to show a brief on the Japanese family over the years. They've been very helpful to us. In 1993, we completed the Embrapa that Yamasa and then in 2013 they provided Asifus, which is our 60 kilometers. Currently, like we see, they are now back on the road and they are being rented to 50 kilometers. From here to Yamasa, we have a line that fund, which Chief Director and which have rolled out. What we are going to do is to do sectional repairs on the road and then simply the shuttle back. This is the scope of the works. As part of the road, it's actually 30 kilometers. By looking at the commercial activities in Asifus, we have decided to realize the road. So 1.2 kilometers of Asifus will be realized. We'll have 2 years. Then we have the reconstruction of the railway underpass, which will feature the railway line. We have a modern toll plaza that is going to be built at Asifus. We will relocate that and move it further and create. Then we have this typical section that it look like Asifus. There's an intersection there that actually where I'm about to be, and that's the railway. And this one takes us down. Then we have the rural area south section. Then we have the Asifus center with the urbanization. They actually visit the JC barriers instead of cutting them here, so that we can take value to our properties and put it to the next. This is a typical section of the underpass that's the city. Then this is what's coming in this application on the road. Then we have this Asifus center, the state in which we are now. But when we finish, we have this. This is the equipment that we are using for the stabilization and the recycling. Fortunately, a lot of our local contractors have this plant. We no more take the material of Skyfire and take it away. All we do is that we just take the equipment, we recycle it, place it back on part, so that we Mr. President, remember when we went to the first guy, one of our local contractors, was recycling that recycling. So most of our local contractors are interestingly, I want to talk about some of the commitment in our region. Over the years, a lot of roads have been committed. As I speak now, we have 967.6 kilometers of roads committed in the central region under Department of Urban Roads, Department of Federal Roads, and Ghana Highway Authority. And under Ghana Highway Authority, we have 276 awarded from 2019 to date. And our projection is that by 2022 December, would have been done with 165.1 kilometers. Most of the roads that we have now are almost 50% complete. And we are hoping that by the close of 2022, that doesn't mean that the rest will not be done. We are still rolling up new projects. New projects are being awarded. As I speak, we have about 120 kilometers of road that have been packaged. And I know this also roll out in 2021 and by 2023. We should be adding to our commitment. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, we are so glad that by December 2022, almost 460 kilometers for the 3 agencies to complete it. The GHG have indicated so much because what you are saying that there's so much unseen gradually. So these are projects that are over 70% complete as of now. And our program is that by next year, we should have this is 165 kilometers. If you add the 3 agencies, almost 460 kilometers.
So in a brief, this is the setup. This is the multi-purpose hall, ICT center. The idea is that we can teach programming and coding that will help adapt to the new world. And every setup or every particular discipline can help adapt the youth into the world that we have today, so that they can know how to program, they can know how to do coding, and know how to adapt to the new world trends. Typically, this is a setup, and we hope that this will just be the first phase. Given the gesture we have from the community, we hope to make it a team that will use several of these facilities across board and help the youth in the entire. Sorry?
You begin the construction for tomorrow?
As soon as possible. As soon as possible.
What does that mean?
We put all logistics in place and we start immediately.
We were taking what, 8 months?
Yeah, typical 8 months from the start of construction.
So we're talking about June next year.
Hopefully.
That's great. Oh, wow. Keep our fingers crossed. Everything works out.
Definitely.
Wayne.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
This is the location mark of the project indicated in the yellow. Continue Kumasi, Yakai,